This is TWiT.
We are so excited about our guest this week. Jimmy Wales is a name everybody knows, the founder of Wikipedia. He is a legend. He is perhaps one of, a handful of people who have transformed civilization. Seriously, wow. You think I'm joking, but Wikipedia, you tell a story. So Jimmy has a new book, The 7 Rules of Trust. Welcome, Jimmy, to Intelligent Machines.
Thank you.
You tell a story early on in the book about your daughter, Kira, when she was born, had a medical condition, and this is 2006, or even earlier, pre-Wikipedia, and you were searching the internet for information about the treatment that the hospital was offering, and it was hard to find any information. You point out now the condition, the treatment, all the information you ever want is available immediately to anybody in the world through Wikipedia. And that's an amazing, that's life-changing in that little sphere. And so you've changed so many lives. And it's not just you, obviously. In fact, Molly White's going to be on TWiT on Sunday, and she's one of your many fabulous editors.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
How many contributors are there on Wikipedia? Do you know?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you count. There have been millions over the years making one edit or whatever, but I would say a typical number we go by is 70 to 80,000 per year.
Wow.
70, 80,000 people per month make at least 5 edits in a month.
So that's pretty dedicated. That's not just some hit and run editor. That's somebody who's spending some time.
Yeah.
There are other stats from the book, 7 million articles on the English version alone. And of course, there are Wikipedia's in 300 other languages. That's 93 times bigger than your predecessor, the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Amazing. Yeah.
Did you put Britannica out of business, do you think? I mean, they're still around, but...
Well, they're around.
Well, they just published another print edition.
They did?
No.
They just published another book, I believe so. Or was that Merriam-Webster?
Not the full series, no.
I have the World Book from when my daughter was born, 1992, on my shelf. But pretty much print encyclopedias are a thing of the past, thanks to Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean, even like before us, like Encarta really put a massive dent in their sales because an encyclopedia on a DVD pre-internet was like a pretty cool thing. Actually, one of the former editors of Britannica said to me, "We always understood we were selling both a knowledge product and furniture," meaning you get these leather books to show that you're proper middle class people and you care about education for your kids, and they're a little dusty, but there's something to have in your house.
It's definitely performative education, and frankly, I'll admit it. That's why I have the leather-bound World Book on my shelves and my.
When my wife forces me to go to drop books off at the used book sale, and she drags me out to do it, they won't take encyclopedias anymore.
Oh, wow.
I'll correct the record. It was the Collegiate Dictionary of Merriam-Webster that was published yesterday. Not an encyclopedia.
Great.
Sorry.
Last edition of Encyclopedia Britannica was 2010, 15th edition.
Yeah. So my copy, I have an old picture of me sitting next to the World Book Encyclopedia when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And a few years ago, I sold one of my old computers through Christie's through an auction, and that was great. And I was like, what we really need to sell or donate to the Smithsonian or something is my old World Book encyclopedias. And my mother said, "Yeah, I think they're in the shed." And my father said, "No, we got rid of them years ago." So not long after that, my parents were moving. I went to Alabama. I went through every single box. They had the most amazing amount of crap in their shed. And I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, I'm gonna, it'll be your money. It's your encyclopedias."
Uh-oh. We were warned that Jimmy's
I have fond memories of those
World
Book encyclopedias.
There you go.
But
as do I. I grew up, as a kid, kind of an autodidact. I'd take volume S and bring it to the bathroom with me. And I think a lot of the weird facts I have in my head are because I read the encyclopedia. But now it's all available.
Jimmy, how did you first come across wikis as a protocol?
Yeah, so we were working on Nupedia, the predecessor to Wikipedia, for about 2 years. It was going very slowly. We had a very top-down system. There was a 7-stage review process to get anything published. It was very academic. We had a fair number of people gathered, on mailing lists and so forth, who were excited about the vision, but they couldn't get anything done. And so one of my employees, Jeremy Rosenfeld, came to me because he had heard me complaining. I'm like, this is too hard. I tried to write an article. I was very intimidated by the process. I'm like, this is too hard. And he came to me and said, have you ever seen a wiki? I'm like, no, tell me about a wiki. And so actually a fun thing. So Ward Cunningham, who invented the wiki, lovely guy, programmer in Portland, I contacted him and I said, oh, what do you think about using a wiki to make an encyclopedia? And he said, yeah, you could do that, but it would still be a wiki. He was right.
He was Wikipedia, right, to be exact.
They were in vogue. Do you remember, Jimmy, the story of the which you became central to, the LA Times Wikitorial?
Oh yeah.
There was an editorial, and they decided, I think it was about Iraq or something. They were going to they were going to use the wiki. We're going to have one editorial, but we're going to find consensus, and everybody's going to collaborate on this, and then they're all just going to magically agree. Yeah. And I remember I blogged it, and you came in at the moment and you said, that's the wrong way to do it. You got to fork it.
Yeah.
And you went to the LA Times, and you were too late.
A lot of Wikipedians sort of jumped on to try to help, but they had even hidden things in the software which are absolutely crucial to the process, like the history, like to be able to go back and look at the history and see all the versions.
It's vital.
That's newspapers for you.
I mean, we knew how to get there because they were using our software. They had just hidden the link. So a lot of Wikipedians were like, okay, well, you just have to type in the link for the history so you can see what's going on.
That's not the same.
Anyway, it was a bit of a disaster for them.
That's one of the keys to trust. We're going to talk about your book, as a matter of fact, just a little bit. I will say a few things, though. First of all, I remember interviewing Ward Cunningham because I was a wiki aficionado. In fact, I ran a website that was a wiki for a long time. Our TWiT wiki was based on Wikimedia's software. We used your software, great software. I love wikis. I still love wikis. I run a tiny wiki on my own home server because I just think wikis are a natural way to store information. I just love them. Nupedia, which required you write a CV, you had to submit a CV, you had to be an expert on the subject. As a result, had a mere 21 articles in it.
Yeah.
But there must have been at some point a transformational leap of faith when you said, okay, you don't have to be an expert to write an article.
Yeah.
Something flipped for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were already having discussions in the community about what are the qualifications, and I was really in the camp of like, well, does it really matter? Like, it's really the work that matters, not the qualifications. And then basically, it was when my daughter was born, and this fiasco. This was sort of, I was on the edge of pulling the plug because Nupedia wasn't working, and I was like, you know what? Just screw it. We've got to try it. And so put up the wiki. So, she was born December 26th, and I launched Wikipedia as soon as I got home from the hospital. She was in the hospital for a couple of weeks on January 15th. And I was just like, you know what? We just got to try. We got one last try. Put it up, and the community immediately, came in and started editing stuff. And it was actually really fun. Like, you can imagine being the first person to write, Paris is a city in France. I hit save and like, look at that. Look at my amazing work. It's fantastic,
I guess you don't have to be an expert to write that article, at least start it.
And of course, I mean, we were just getting started. It was all greenfield, and there was a lot of fun stuff to do. And obviously, we had to sort of think about things. I'll tell you something really crazy about the early software. I had downloaded UseModWiki, which was a Perl script, which was very easy to install. Open source was great. I just got started. But this software, you could create a user account, but there was no concept of passwords. So anybody could come in the next day and log into your account. Like, there was no real user account. So you could give yourself a name, but anybody else could pretend to be you. So this was clearly not going to build trust. This was clearly going to be a disaster. So one of the very first things I did was scrabble together a little bit of a login system. But yeah, it was really very experimental and very open-ended and quite fun, really.
How technical were you then?
Pretty technical. I'm a programmer. I'm not a very good programmer, but even now I program for fun.
Vibe or hard?
I mean, a little of both. A little of both.
Right.
I can program, but I need some help. And actually, I mean, just even like the borderline is like just the autocomplete of something you start writing has gotten to be pretty good. Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, that's what I was going to type anyway. Yeah. But yeah, no, I actually think it's really amazing. I do think people who like think they're purely going to vibe code like and get something ready for production, you're probably kidding yourself because it's not that good yet. But if you're a programmer, like a sorry, rusty old guy programmer like me, you can actually get some stuff done that, you're like, yeah, actually, this would have taken me 10 times as long because I've forgotten a little bit of syntax and I'm not up to date on the latest things, but it's like, oh, right, yeah, okay, this is fine. And I can read code and it's all good. Yeah, I think it's an amazing time to be making things.
Talk about crusty. Last weekend, I spent a morning using Claude Code to rewrite my Emacs configuration. And it did, by the way, a lovely job. And it really improved it significantly. And I was blown away, frankly, that it could write eLisp and do it so well. It's amazing.
Amazing.
So your new book is The 7 Rules of Trust. And what I found interesting was, I would have assumed off the top of my head that the trust involved was you trusting, or rather people trusting Wikipedia. And in fact, before that happened, you had to develop trust with the editors, with the community. And that's really what this book is about, is how do you say we're in a crisis, a trust crisis globally right now. We need trust somehow to come back. How did you create trust in that early Wikipedia community?
Yeah, a lot of it is just, like getting to know people and, just sort of realizing because we were a small group, it's like, okay, well, these are the people I've been talking to for a couple of years, thinking about the encyclopedia. Obviously, they can just start editing stuff and we'll just see what happens. So it was low risk was a big piece of it. But also it was a learning process over time. I mean, I remember I used to wake up in the middle of the night in a little bit of a panic and run downstairs and just check on the site because I was afraid in the middle of the night somebody would trash the whole thing, which you could have in the early days. But then I was like, oh, like there's this guy in Australia, and when I'm asleep, he's on, and he's like making sure there's no vandalism and so forth. And then, over time, there were a lot of details of like, okay, how do we get there? What are the things we need to do to build trust in the community? So that's, there were so many steps.
You talk about Francis Fry's trust triangle in the book. I apologize, by the way, for the watermark on the triangle because I have a pre-distribution PDF of the book. But three key elements of trust: authenticity, empathy, and logic. And she says every time trust exists, those three things are there. Every time it's broken, you could trace it back to a failure of one of those three.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a great framework because before I came across that and started to do my research, I just knew sort of like my experience, like, okay, trust, like, like what do we do? What are the things that we've done to build trust in the community, build trust with each other, and then ultimately trust with the public? But her framework, I think, is really good. And it's not unique to her. I think those labels are hers, but it's actually quite common in the academic literature around trust to have a sort of a 3-part formula. And sometimes they're named a little bit differently. And they make sense. If you think about empathy, for example, like the idea of you need to genuinely be able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand them. And then even if you disagree with them, you can begin to trust them, but also you can behave in a way that they find trustworthy. Whereas if you're not having any empathy whatsoever, then the interaction is cold and not helpful. And we see this a lot in politics. Like right now, everything is so divided and so divisive that people don't even have a kind of like really simple empathy of like on certain issues. It's like, well, if you disagree with me, you must be an absolute Nazi horrible person, right? And it's like, well, you know what? Probably not. They might be mistaken. They might be an absolutely horrible Nazi person, but actually among like normal people, that's extremely rare. Like people can be bigoted, they can be friendly, they can be both of those things at the same time, but generally they're not actually horrific people. And if you can't sort of see them as people, then it becomes really hard to understand where they're coming from and what they relate to. I live in the UK, and this was so obvious during Brexit, during the Brexit vote. Like all the major political parties were opposed to Brexit. I live in London. I didn't meet a single person who thought Brexit was a good idea. And actually, a lot of the rhetoric was basically saying, well, people are racist, and that's why they're in favor of Brexit. And it's like, well, in retrospect, some of them are racist, of course. Some of them are actually just pissed off about a lot of legitimate issues that nobody in London was listening to. And that lack of empathy, that lack of saying, oh, like, why are people so upset about Europe of all things? And it's like, and the answer is, oh, it's about jobs. And if you're like, well, hold on, look at the statistics. That's not the problem. You're not listening, right? You're not empathizing with what they're upset about. That may be legitimate and maybe something that needs to be dealt with. So anyway, I could go on all night.
I feel like this gets to a point you were making earlier, which is when Wikipedia was created almost 25 years ago now, the internet was a very different place. I mean, some might say it was, I guess, more human. It was certainly a lot smaller, and so it was easier to interpret other users' actions in good faith and kind of build out a trusted network like this. That's obviously changed a lot as the scale has grown over the past 2.5 decades. I mean, do you think that the sort of experiment in trust that was and still is Wikipedia could have existed if it was founded today?
So, I mean, I'm going to say yes and no to what you just said. So before Tim Berners-Lee and the World Wide Web, there was this amazing place called Usenet, which was a giant sprawling message board, sort of like Reddit today, except it was more or less unmoderatable because of the way it was distributed, and it was unbelievably toxic.
I remember the flame wars on Usenet. Oh my God!
It turns out people don't need algorithms to persuade them to be jerks to each other, and so. That we should be careful. That's all I'm saying. We should be careful to not over idealize and say, well, it was this amazing, beautiful place, and all these geeks came together and they shared their software and it was that, and it is that today, and it's also like people are, can be quite difficult, and a lot of the problems that we see today in social media. So, like one example. That I like to give is like one of the things that really works in Wikipedia is the consistency of identity, not necessarily your real identity, but you've got an account and all of your edit history is there. You build up a reputation for being a decent person and sort of being reasonable or unreasonable, whatever that reputation may be. And you can contrast that with, a place like Twitter where, frankly, if you post almost anything on Twitter, I keep calling it Twitter, but I refuse.
Oh, I will not call it.
Yeah, but X the everything app. Yeah,
X the everything app. Like you posted. What often happens is some absolute random sort of sends you an angry message. You've never seen them before. You'll never see them again. And that kind of atomistic interaction, which isn't about building a reputation for thoughtfulness and kindness over time, it's not conducive to people, behaving a little bit better. Whereas just having over time, people get to know you and they're like, oh Bob's a little twitchy about this topic, but other than that, he's a decent person, and great. And we just have to be gentle around that topic.
It's rule number 5 in your book. Your mother was right. Be nice, be civil, be respectful, be nice.
Yeah, it works. It actually works. And I mean, a lot of this, one of the questions people ask, oh, well, this seems very abstract and it all sounds very nice. I'm like, you know what? But it's also very practical. like building trust is very practical. I mean, in business, we have some great business examples of, companies. Airbnb had an enormous crisis of trust very early on that could have killed the company. Like if people generally believe, if I put my house on Airbnb, it's going to get trashed and the company's going to do nothing about it, they're not going to do it.
Right.
And so they had to think about, okay, how do we make sure people don't have that feeling? And what are the steps we need to take? Things like indemnity, like if somebody trashes your house, we've got insurance, it's going to be okay. Like that was a huge step, and they didn't have that at first.
What struck me, I came to a cold stop, Jimmy, in the list at number 3, which I think is so important. A strong, clear, positive purpose is essential. And your example, of course, is that Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. And I would argue that Google has had that to organize and make accessible the world's knowledge. But I've long complained that Facebook never had that North Star. They never said, right. Why are we here? What are we doing here? Neither did Twitter. And I think that's perhaps a glib explanation to the downfall, but I don't think so. I think nobody could say, well, no, you shouldn't be doing that here because this is what we do here, this is what we don't do here, which everybody does on Wikipedia. Right. So then you bring that to AI. And I think you're right. I'm trying to think about it. I can't think of an AI company that has that kind of, beyond we're going
clarity
to
of purpose,
destroy mankind, or we're going to build something that's smarter than all of you and replace all of you, or that BS. I don't think anything has a human-centered value proposition of purpose in any of the AI companies. Can you name any of them that do?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I would say to some extent there's some high-minded stuff, but yeah, is it really? It's hard to say. No. Like Twitter, for example, has sometimes people talk about, it's the town square. I'm like, it's a pretty bad town square. Like,
you want to move to another town.
It's ready to move because this place, there's muggers around every corner and people screaming at my grandma. Like, it's completely unpleasant. And it's like that idea of like a town square. It's like, this is where people go and there's debates and it's like an open, free exchange of ideas. Well, what are we building together?
Yeah. What are we making together? Why are we here together?
Well, not everything is going to lend itself to that, but
that's true.
Beautifully, Wikipedia clearly does, and it's kind of a testament to what you're doing, that people can arrange themselves around it and get behind it. You don't have to recruit. People get it, and they go, "Yeah, I want to help."
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it's one of the things that I say kind of in sympathy to social media companies, who I am critical of in many ways, is to say, like, actually, that's a really hard problem.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got a box that just says, what's on your mind, as it turns out, some people have pretty horrible things on their mind, right? And like, how do you make those judgment calls? And, like, I think they could do a much better job of it, but it is a hard problem. Whereas with Wikipedia, there's no box that says, hey, how you feeling? What's on your mind today? It's like, no, we're here to build an encyclopedia. Even the talk page, like, it's very common. People come on the talk page, they're new to Wikipedia, and they just start ranting about the topic. And it's like, well, okay, right. I also don't think very highly of Donald Trump, but that's not what we're here to do. You can got the whole internet for ranting about Donald Trump. How do we improve the article? Like, that's the real question. Like, what can we do about the article? So that purpose makes our sort of self-management so much easier.
Yeah.
And of course, thinking about social media, which is quite hard, is one thing. But I also think it applies to, companies, having a simple, clear purpose, like, what you're there for, it's classic. And obviously companies can do more than one thing often, but sometimes doing even one thing is hard enough, much less doing too many different things. And a lot of big conglomerates lose focus and they end up falling apart because they're not really doing, I think, I'm not a super expert, but I'm going to argue that Boeing, they have a pretty simple purpose, right?
Yeah, they have a trust problem.
Stay focused on that. So that's not their problem. They've got a purpose. It's a good purpose. Like, build a plane that doesn't fall out of the sky. Like, that's super important. So it's not the only thing, right? But it is one of the things that, I think is key. And I do think a lot of companies in all kinds of industries, they run afoul because they end up doing too many different things and not really sure what they're doing. I think Yahoo is a great example of a company that, was a little bit too much of everything and not clear. And in our case, because we're just an encyclopedia and because we're a nonprofit, I remember very early somebody said, oh, when Gmail came out, somebody said, oh, should we start offering like webmail accounts? Wouldn't that be cool? And I was like, there's going to be a lot of management problems and technical issues. And like, it doesn't seem like that's building an encyclopedia. So let's just stick to the one thing that we know how to do. And we have obviously side projects and things, but they're all in that same theme of sharing knowledge in a wiki way.
Yeah, you famously turned down advertising. People have pointed out how much money you could make. Does that part of your purpose is not to make money? Wait a minute, that's not right.
Well, I mean, it turns out, it's a pretty terrible business. We're a charity, so
and by the way, great. I contribute. I'm a monthly donor, and I'm great. Because I get such value out of Wikipedia. I use it every single day.
I remember Jason Calacanis, I think in Munich, yelling at you. You're giving up all this money. This is just stupid. You must be doing this.
Jason.
That's very
Jason.
On
brand.
Jason.
Yes.
Quite on brand.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things, like a lot of reasons. One, I mean, we're a charity and like whatever, but I think my biggest reason is sort of aesthetic and artistic, i.e., I just don't like the idea of it. I think Wikipedia is very nice. It's like a temple for the mind, and I enjoy it. But I also think like organizations ultimately do follow the money. Yeah. And like nobody at the Wikimedia Foundation is thinking, oh, how do we improve engagement to keep people on the site longer so they see more ads? Or, gosh, all these people reading about World War II, there's literally nothing to sell to them. Can we move them on to topics that will be better revenue? And they just don't do that. I mean, nobody ever thinks about that. Like, we don't care what you're reading. It's completely fine because it doesn't matter. Actually, all we care about, our business model, which is the funding for Wikipedia's vast majority is small donors. So we're not funded by governments. I think I was told just over $10. So what do we need? We need people to go when they see that little message. They want to. Views. It's just like it's worth it to me to like help. I should chip in. Like it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's unnatural to support Wikipedia.
What's the average donation? Do you know?
Yeah, just over $10.
Wow.
Oh, you froze for a second, so we missed that.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you all froze as well, so
that's always the fun.
We all just politely assume, you know.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about AI because if we're go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
Just think of the amazing things we're going to do when the internet doesn't suck. That's what
You're one of the signal reasons the internet does not suck, I might add. When you talk about a trust crisis, we are about to enter, a trust apocalypse thanks to AI. Now, I'm an AI fan. We do a show. This show is ostensibly about AI. I would say that most of the content of Wikipedia has been sucked up by every AI as part of its training material that regurgitates, the contributions people have given. And yet AI has a big trust issue because of hallucination, because of AI slop.
Definitely.
You actually ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw this summer when you mentioned briefly, maybe we could use AI in Wikipedia to, I don't know, you thought maybe judge articles, or you were looking at different ways you could use AI.
Yeah, I basically wrote a little script that you could feed in a short, like a stub, a short entry. Then let's say it has 5 sources, and you feed in all the sources, and you just ask, is there anything in the sources that isn't in Wikipedia but should be, and is there anything in Wikipedia that's not supported by the sources? And I've just played around with it. It's okay. It's not perfect, and I like even just a little prompt engineering would probably help it quite a lot. And you could use a second AI to judge it. You could just tell it, just say no. Just like this is my big beef about AI is it very often should say, don't know. Can't think of anything.
It doesn't like to. That's the problem.
It doesn't like to. It always wants to help you. But anyway, it wasn't a buzzsaw. Like there was news sort of interpreting that way, but you can interpret a wiki conversation any way you like.
Yeah,
because there's always like different opinions.
Oh, the controversy! Like oh my God!
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like And I think within our community there is obviously like very heavy skepticism about using AI for content for readers, because the hallucination problem is really quite bad. And in fact, I think most non-Wikipedians, or most people who haven't really worked in the knowledge space and all that, don't really realize how bad the hallucination problem is. And partly because if you use AI in a casual capacity, one of the problems with the hallucinations is they tend to be quite plausible.
Right.
Because that's the way it works. And so you can very easily go, oh, right, it gave me an amazing answer, explained everything to me, and you don't really realize that 10% of it was absolutely made up out of thin air because it sounded like it's plausible. One of my favorite things, I always ask every new AI model, who is Kate Garvey, my wife, because she's not a famous person, but she's known a bit. She worked for Tony Blair for 10 years, so she's in different books about the Blair administration. She promotes the global goals, sustainable development goals with the UN and all this. So, there's a few news stories about her, but it's kind of just perfect that the AI doesn't know who she is exactly, but it can guess. And it guesses usually
What are some of the funniest responses you've gotten from that query?
So one of the best was, it said that she set up a nonprofit. Okay, that's true. Set up a nonprofit to promote women's empowerment in the workplace. Sounds like Kate. She did
Plausible.
It with Miriam Gonzalez, who is Nick Clegg's wife. Nick Clegg was the deputy prime minister of the UK who went on to work for Meta as head of global policy. And we know Nick. I know Nick from work. And actually, our kids go to the same school because London's a small town. So we know them socially. And my wife said, wow, when I showed her this, she's like that could have happened. Like, we could have easily been at a dinner party.
It's my digital twin.
Like, it's completely plausible, but completely false. And then the other one that's really fun is I ask, and who did she marry? It's never me. It's generally somebody we know, because I always joke I married into the Labour Party, so we know a lot of political journalists and politicians and things like that, and that's sort of our social circle here. And so it'll be people we know. So my UK publisher, Alexis, is married to James Purnell, a former Labour minister, who was also my wife's roommate back in the day. And so it said to me, that she married James Purnell. And I actually sprung this on Alexis. We were doing an event at Bloomsbury for her sales team or whatever for the book. And I was like, well, here's an example of a hallucination. And I'm like, I put it up on screen. It's like, yes, she married. I said, oh, wow, that must have, two prominent people. That must have been quite oh, yes, Tony Blair was there. And, we're very happy to give a lot of nonsense. And then I say, but I thought she married Jimmy Wales from Wikipedia. And it's like, oh, you're right. You're completely right. I'm so sorry. I got it all wrong.
Where's my sword to fall
Mea
on?
culpa, mea maximum.
How dare I?
And then the other one, and this is like British audiences really get this quite quickly. I'll just say it anyway, but because he's been in the news lately. But the other one is Peter Mandelson, who just was the ambassador to the US from the UK, who just lost his job because he had associated with Epstein back in the day and all that. But he's very famous in the UK, big part of the Blair administration. And I said to ChatGPT when it said Peter Mandelson, I said, oh, but isn't Peter Mandelson quite famously gay? And then it got very woke with me, and it said it's not appropriate to speculate about people.
Shame on you for asking. That is very funny. We're talking to Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, a man who's done, probably inadvertently, something so massive to change the world that your name will forever be enshrined on Wikipedia, at least.
One would hope.
one would expect. So do you anticipate AI ever making its appearance on the Wikipedia's pages?
Well, I mean, I think we're already seeing it for better and worse. So one of the good uses, if you are trying to write in a language that is not your mother tongue, people often feel a little bit shy about it because Wikipedia is written, kind of a high level and so forth. And people are using it to write something and then ask, can you help me with the language here? And it's pretty good at that. And so I know that's going on. Translation, machine translation, not necessarily using ChatGPT, but machine translation's getting to be pretty good. So that's another bit of AI being used. And I do think, thinking about tools for our community, tools to help us find articles that are wrong. I talked to a one of our French volunteers who's an old school Wikipedian, and she said, I don't really have time to edit Wikipedia like I used to. So my hobby now is I find a dead link in French Wikipedia. I see what it was supporting, and I go find a new reference that supports the same thing. Great. I said, like, what if an AI could take the dead link? You don't need AI to find a dead link, 404 not found. What if it could find dead links and go out and look for sources and just suggest to you, oh, here's what this was supporting and that link has died. Here's a quote from this. Does that suit? Would you? And she's like, oh, that'd be amazing. Because the human part, the interesting part is her judgment as an editor. Does this article support this statement? Do I need to modify this statement to be more accurate? But the part that a machine can do is actually understand it just enough to go and find a source that probably works. And so I think little tools like that will be the first use. And I think that will be great. Like, it's like typical of any technology. Like the best use of any technology is the boring bits that don't really require a human, like take that over and let us do the stuff that humans are good at.
Perfect.
But I think the fun thing about AI is like what it's good at is a set of things that aren't quite what we all would have expected. I think if we had this conversation 30 years ago and said, oh, what will the first AI be like? And I think we would say it's going to be ruthlessly boring and factual, not creative at all. It's going to be very mechanical like a robot. It's just going to regurgitate facts. Turns out it's really bad at regurgitating facts. And it's quite good at brainstorming and coming up with wild ideas. Yeah. So, like, not what we expected.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of Grokopedia?
I don't really think of Grokopedia. So, no, I haven't had time. I've been on my book tour, been promoting the book, trying to get people to remember I'm not a billionaire and need to, sell some books. And so
that's your own darn fault, by the way, Jimmy. You could have been.
Jason tried to tell you, but no, you wouldn't listen to Jason.
Very happy.
I love it because you're right. It's perverse incentives, and you've kept pure. Yeah.
Kept it simple. Yeah. Yep. So I haven't had time to dig through it personally as much as I would like to. I have seen news headlines of, people are finding what I would expect, which is hallucinations. Like AI is not good enough to do this and it's going to make stuff up. Also, apparently, despite Elon claiming it to be more neutral than Wikipedia, it seems surprisingly aligned with some of his more intriguing political views. And so I can tell you not everything in Wikipedia agrees with my political views, even though my political views are quite boring. But yeah, so I'm skeptical of the project, and I actually think it's interesting to sort of see a large-scale attempt to do this, but I don't think the technology is going to be there for several years to come, and particularly not if he's got his thumb on the scale, right, or his staff do, because they're terrified if it says something. Right. Like one example, like this is something that Elon sort of complained to me on Twitter about and so on, and said Wikipedia is mainstream propaganda or whatever. But he made that gesture at the Republican convention, or no, the inauguration, whatever it was.
Yes.
And it was what Wikipedia says is like just very simple and very factual. It just says he made this gesture. Many people said it looked like a Nazi salute. Elon denied it. Like that, those are all uncontroversial facts, right? That's not even, and if Wikipedia said Elon made a Nazi gesture, I think that would be wrong. Like that's not neutral. That's actually interpreting the in a contentious way, et cetera, et cetera. It's fine if that's an opinion. It's not for Wikipedia. But I'm not going to say leaving that out would make sense. It's part of history. It was a very interesting thing that happened, and it had impact on public whatever, and it's part of history. He may not like it, but anyway, as I understand it, that's not in Grokopedia.
Oh,
and so Jimmy, last week on the show, I quoted from a paper from Technical University of Dublin. Have you seen this, comparing the two?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. No, I need to.
I'll send it to you, but it says, I'll quote this again. Grokopedia articles are on average several times longer.
That's true.
With higher Flesch Kincaid grade levels, but lower lexical diversity and reference density. This pattern suggests that Grokopedia's generation processes elaborate on existing material, expanding text length, and rhetorical flow, rather than producing substantially new or more rigorously sourced knowledge.
Oh, interesting. So it's as if I'm just imagining Elon on a phone call with Trump. This is me hallucinating for fun. And And Trump says, Elon, I'll give you some advice. Tell it to use bigly words, lots of hard words. That'll show that it's really smart.
It's smart.
A high sort of score on high level. That doesn't have to be true. It just needs to sound impressive somehow.
Sound bigly. Well, the book is fabulous. I really enjoy it. The 7 Rules of Trust, a blueprint for building things that last. Jimmy Wales has the credentials, the bona fides to write such a book.
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
You've done it. You've succeeded. Do you imagine you're going to continue doing this for a while? You want to retire?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how to retire because I don't actually have a job. So I don't work at the Wikimedia Foundation. I haven't ever. I've never had a job working
Really?
there.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've always been a volunteer, and
that's awesome.
You know, I even pay for my flights to go to board meetings and stuff like that. It's my charity work, and then the Fandom, my for-profit company. Again, I'm just on the board. I don't work there. The truth is, I would make a terrible employee. So I'm very fortunate to have become successful despite that. I like to get up and do whatever I think is the most interesting thing. So lately I have this great project, which I love, and I don't have enough time. So when you say retire, I'm like, maybe that's what it means. I really want, my house is an old Victorian house, and I found out that an admiral lived there about 150 years ago. And I have a picture of him because I was able to find his name, and I was able to find a picture of him in an old magazine. And I'm making an AI assistant for my home who will be the ghost of Admiral Pearson.
That sounds fun.
And you know, when you ask him things about the weather, he'll speak in nautical terminology. If you ask him to turn on the television, he'll be a little befuddled because he doesn't really know what a television is. It's a better idea in my head than anything I've actually made. But I'm having fun playing around.
I love it.
You know, with large language models, local on my laptop, and sort of home assistant-y stuff. It's really great.
Which models are you favoring?
So lately, I find the OSS GPT 120 is it's good. It's very wordy. It's fast, and it just writes a lot.
Yes.
So I haven't had time to tell it to like, can we do a prompt to say like, just really give me shorter answers.
Slow down.
Like, slow down. It's pretty good. And you know, I mean, the thing is, for this kind of funny idea, the most important thing for a voice assistant is time to first token, time to speak, because you can't wait 30 seconds for it to answer you. Yeah. I've got a few little cute cheats for that, like have a bunch of stock phrases that he says while he's actually thinking.
Arr! I'm glad you asked me about that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the models. So this is actually something I do find very interesting, and I think NVIDIA's results came out today, and I think
and they were soaring. They said yes.
Yeah, but like for the first time in forever, my new-ish computer, I bought the most expensive MacBook that was available, M4, 128 gigabyte M4 Max, because it can run large language models locally.
Right.
And I realized before this, I was always like, well, I would get this 2 generations old. If I got a new computer, I'd get a refurbished one, because I'm like, all I do is get on the internet. I type emails and I read web pages. Like I'm not doing video processing. I'm not doing anything. And now suddenly I'm like, oh, actually, I could use a really powerful computer. And I bet you in the next few years, that's going to become quite common as not just hobbyists or people in tech like me, but as a lot of people are like, yeah, I thought I would just get the cheapest $300 computer, but it turns out I need a $2,000 computer to do AI. And they will. And so I think there's going to be a real demand for compute, even for home users and people like that. And I might be wrong, but I think there was a short period of time. It used to be like, you really need to get the latest computer because they were all so terrible. Then for a while, it was like, well, no, they're all fine. Like, you don't really need a fast computer. They're all completely fine. And now it's like, oh, no, actually a fast computer is meaningful again. I guess gamers have needed like,
but they've been the only ones. They've been driving the market. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Now AI drives it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bitcoin did for a while for a certain segment of people.
Yeah. But again, I think gamers, that's a large group of people, but it's a segment. And, you know, Bitcoin's a smaller segment. But a computer that can like do the stuff I want it to do that isn't gaming, that's everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
I bought a framework desktop just for that, just to run GPT 120.
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah.
You
How is
can
it?
buy the NVIDIA box.
Very nice. I like it a lot. The NVIDIA box people are complaining about already.
Oh, really?
We'll talk about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
that's
got
interesting.
mixed reviews.
It's not worth
It's
the
quite
money.
expensive. Yeah, it's sort of twice the price of that
4,000.
the framework. Yeah, which is like 2,000 for one of those 395 AMD.
Yeah,
Jimmy-
Strix Halo, yeah.
You're too young to retire. That's true.
Yeah.
And probably too young to call a grandfather of the internet. But as you are a pioneer who made the better internet and changed it, I'm just curious, who else do you think deserves to be in that club with you? Who else has done well by the internet?
I mean, I think Tim Berners-Lee, he's the real deal. Actually, Craig of Craigslist, I think is great.
Yep.
I think there's, but I also, I can be critical of various aspects of big tech, but I mean, I also think, like Facebook has its problems, but you know what? I keep up with my high school friends on Facebook. Mm-hmm. It's not all bad, and there's a lot of bad stuff out there. So, I'm still a very pro tech optimist, but at the same time acknowledging, we got
to do better.
There's a lot of stuff we've got to do better. There's a lot of stuff that could be a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I'm in favor of making Jimmy Wales a billionaire. So everybody go out and buy his book, The 7 Rules of Trust, a blueprint for building things that last. Should be Sir Jimmy Wales, but I guess if you grew up in Alabama, you don't get that. So,
well, I am a UK citizen now. So,
okay, maybe you can. All right, I was going to make you a Kentucky colonel, but okay, we'll take that. It's really a pleasure to have you on Intelligent
So great
Machines,
to see you,
Jimmy. Thank you.
Great. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Jimmy Wales, everybody. We all owe him a round. And if you're not yet donating to Wikipedia, if you use it, which I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Please become a regular donor. This is something that we all, they don't demand it, but it's something we all should do.
Well, it's a 25th anniversary coming up, so I'm thinking $25 sounds about right. If I were giving a kid I liked a bit of money when they turned 25, I'd give them $25. So that seems fair.
Yeah. Only 2%, according to Wikipedia, of the readers actually are donors. Let's increase that number. Let's make it 10%.
Yeah,
and then Jimmy could go first class. Thank you, Jimmy. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks for having me on. Brilliant.
Take care.
All right. Well, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this highlight from Intelligent Machines. We do this show every Wednesday. You can watch us do it live. Or, as they say, like and subscribe. There's a link down below. Thanks.